Welcome to the program. Now, Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed has failed to clinch the African Union Commission chairperson post after members elected Chad's Musa Mahamat with most regional blocs supporting his bid. Mahamat won with 38 votes against Amina's 26 in the hotly contested elections held at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. Kenya had gone all out in its bid to have Mohamed elected to head the African Union Commission, spending in excess of 2 billion Kenyan shillings. The Kenyan campaign spanned the continent, with President Uhuru Kenyatta sending special envoys to 53 countries.
I think we're more divided now than we ever were. And the divisions are quite artificial, actually. I've said before that it's sad that Africa is divided along language lines, and yet those languages do not belong to us, and the owners of those languages do not fight amongst themselves, right? I don't remember a time when the UK and France were fighting over their languages. They've left that fight on this continent, and I think that's one of the things that really needs to be urgently addressed.
Kenya, I think, is faced with the one problem within her neighbors, and in the last 3 years, Kenya foreign policy has really profiled with a number of visits and conferences. And so there are people within the African continent and even our neighbors who view Kenya as an emerging powerhouse in Africa. And I am sure they didn't want that. So if we have lost 4 countries in our region, if they voted for us, Amina could have been the chair today.
Right, and before we get into that discussion, let's introduce our panel tonight. On my immediate right is Faith Rono, who's a communications specialist. Many thanks for joining us. We have Betty Waitherero, who's a political communications researcher. Many thanks for joining us. Sarah Bakata, who is an editor with The Nation newspaper. Many thanks for joining us again. A good evening to you. And let's just go straight into that. Of course, a lot of post-mortem is happening right now. Everyone wondering what exactly happened. I think we were all overconfident that this was going to be a seat for Kenya, and there's theories after theories as to what exactly happened. What is your take on this particular issue?
I think Amina's loss in the AUC bid for chair, for the position of chair, didn't actually come as a shocker for me personally, because for anyone who looked at the candidates who are contesting for that seat, and it's a very competitive seat, it was very easy for you to realize that it was not as easy as we actually, or as the lobbying or the campaign team put it, and actually made it look, for Kenyans or even the president. And so we were looking at competitors who have, experience. Of course, Amina is a brilliant, she's a brilliant leader in the area of international relations. A top diplomat. I mean, really, some people say she would even, if it were, she would go for the UN seat if it were in that context. But as you put it, that we actually went out. Shuttle diplomacy was at a very high rate. We spent money. I personally think that we did not read the script right. For various reasons. Number one is that we have seen that there's betrayal, especially in the East African community. We can note, like Amina said, that we have differences in terms of language speaking countries, but also that would, you would ask, then why would the 3 East African countries, not vote for us? We're looking at a next door neighbor, Uganda. I think it goes beyond that. I also think that we probably didn't sell out. The lobbying team, the campaign team, probably didn't send out the message, because these countries are looking at what are we getting,
Because at the end of the day, every nation is serving its own
exactly. And then we have the fact that SADC countries, wanted also to have the position for the second term, having Lamine Zuma, Dr. Lamine Zuma, having served for only 1 term. And so that is why they probably abstained. But it speaks to, for me, it speaks to what sort of interests did we, sell out? What did the campaign team say?
Strategy, what was the
At
strategy?
strategy level. And, we made a mistake for it, and even the president, I've had some quarters saying that he's actually disappointed because the message that he got and the message that Kenyans got is that, we are going to win. And then we got disappointed.
Right. Betty, do you think we use the best strategy to earn this seat?
I think that, to be honest, we have focused so much internally and on our own abilities that we haven't been able to sell those abilities abroad. And the sort of PR that was going on within Kenya is not it's not at the same level. We know naturally you're talking to your own people here. If you sell them the idea that we are going to win, then of course all of us were surprised that she didn't turn out a winner. And at the same time, like Faith has said, we were not told about the other candidates. We're not aware of, the sort of competition that Amina is up against. But I feel that there was, and Amina is right in this, that there was some definite betrayal at some point from the East African countries. I'm with her on that, but I feel also,
Why do you think that is? Why do you think our region betrayed?
I think that the sentiments against Amina's candidacy started from way before this. And one of the reporters that had covered this, Hamza Mohammed, noted that the other candidate appeared to have more qualifications as opposed to Amina, in the sense that he had been a more seasoned foreign minister compared to her. And that may have been a selling point. There might have also been a little bit of arrogance on our part. And unfortunately, it's shown in the way we were going about feeling like we are going to win. The loss wasn't significant in the sense that she did manage to get 29 votes, but then look at what the other candidate managed to garner. Even if the East African countries voted for her, that still would have resulted in a loss. And we need to lick our wounds and accept that this was not our race.
And Sarah, one of the theories is that the ICC card was at play. That we saw Amina was really lobbied to have that resolution passed, that so no sitting head of state in Africa could be arrested or even have to go for an hearing at the ICC. And some people felt like we used. At that point, we could have used this particular seat for a self-seeking purpose. What do you feel about that?
I think, first of all, let me agree with the other two panelists. It's true, we came from a position of overconfidence. And as we've pointed out, I think the ICC issue had a lot to do with that. It was both a boost and an Achilles heel for Amina's candidacy. First of all, Kenya has come from a position that, because of the ICC cases and the way we lobbied the AU, we actually managed to convince the entire continent the ICC is not a good court. This thing is against Africans. We need to do this. We need to do that. If you remember very well what happened in the past 2 years, we lobbied the continent and we managed to get everyone on our side. And that worked absolutely well for us. So I think the government and everyone who's doing government PR were very convinced this is it. We've got everyone. We got a hearing. We've got everyone's ear on the continent. Now, if we put Amina there, and after what she did with the ICC issue, surely this one will be a walkover. But then this was a totally different ballgame. This was the chair for the continent. It had nothing to do with outsiders. Then we come back. Africa, as Amina herself pointed out, unfortunately we are divided on regional and Anglophone versus Francophone. Now, the Francophone countries, unfortunately, are tiny, tiny countries in the West. And there are quite a number of them. There are many. And you come to Eastern, Central, and Southern Africa, huge countries, very few of us. So even our votes, even if she was to get everything, and already SADC had their own Botswana candidate.
Sarah, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off there, but all is not lost for Kenya, because even as the government reeled from Amina Mohammed's loss to Chad's Musa Mahamat, plans at the Education Ministry to overhaul the education system remain on course. Kenya will soon have a new curriculum as the 844 system is replaced with a new system that will focus on skills. The new system, which has been endorsed by the government and key education stakeholders, emphasizes continuous assessment tests rather than one-off final year exams. Students' performances will be be reviewed at various levels of their academic life, and the government representatives and said the new system of education would be launched in 4 months' time.
We are going to take very bold steps in some of the things we are going to do, but we must have the resources for what we are going to implement. And that's why we've decided we will begin by piloting the curriculum first, so that we are sure that what we are going to implement in the long run is something that is sustainable.
Right, so Matiang'i there remains on a roll. Everything is being overhauled and made better, but my main problem with this new system of education, we have compulsory subjects, which are social studies, history, geography, agriculture, home science, and creative arts. Then we have a whole other range of extra things like health education, pre-technical education, pre-career education, languages, STEM subjects, community service, internships, PE, religious education. So we can see with 844, we also started by saying we want to equip these students that when they leave high school, they can begin their lives. But are we making the same mistake by overloading our children now with life skills, Sharon? Do you think we're doing them a disservice by over-educating them?
I think this, and for a long time, really, we have been speaking about this, overhauling the education system in Kenya, in the sense that it has been really geared towards passing tests and going on to the next level. And right now, that you expose the students to a wide array of skill sets, such that you're able to find yourself, I believe, in this new system, where exactly your strengths are, and then you'll pick it up as you go to the next level. So I really think this is what educationists have been talking about, have been calling for, and it's really, it's more edifying even for the students, in the sense that you really find yourself and then you get to hone yourself in a particular direction.
Yes, I agree, but I do remember the days when we had to do electricity, woodwork, carpentry. There's a whole lot of things that they also wanted us to do to kind of find our niche, Faith. Do you think that we've bettered this system?
First, I would say that, you know, the 844 curriculum system has been in place for 30 years or so. And so we are getting into, definitely we cannot, you know, just, you know, throw away the fact that we are living in a different world now, and we are getting into a digital, you know, every child or every student is almost, you know, in the digital platform, and that is why we need to align ourselves. I think that this new system is really good in the sense that we get, as Sharon said, you know, students to align themselves to what they would really want to do, and not just exams. But having said that, it's very critical for us, and even for education experts, to question the implementation. For me, the implementation process is very key, because we're looking at the minister said, the cabinet secretary said, the next 4 months we are launching the pilot program. However, having talked to teachers, you know, and even the teachers' unions are saying we have not been involved in this process. This is a process that probably started, I heard about it last year. I don't know how long it's been there, but have we trained even the teachers to have these critical skills to instill in these students or children? And so the implementation is very critical, because like Sosion said today, we don't have to rush it and then, you know, have it will be good as a document that is just there.
Right, but Matiang'i's approach seems to be just do it. Just get it done, and we're going to get it done today, and it's getting done. But do you think we're jumping into this, or are we going to encounter some teething problems?
Okay, first, when you told us about the list of different subjects, I was just hoping that this is segmented, because I don't see how it's going to benefit a 13-year-old to learn about healthcare and
I think it goes from it's segmented.
Having said that, do we even have the resources? We talked about laptops. I don't know how far that has gone, but do we really have the resources to implement this? That is a very important question to ask. Will you be able to acquire those resources in the next 4 months? Are you able to hire the teachers that you need to implement this? The best thing about this idea for me is the removal of the elimination exams. Those exams were making kids commit suicide, you know. They're making people lose any hope in having a future. It definitely contributed to higher unemployment. So I'm very happy about that. As for how it will work out, I know, Matiangi, you want to get it done, but you have to pull all the resources together. You have to get all the stakeholders to participate in this process for it to work. And that's, that's in a nutshell, that's how I feel it will roll out.
Right, Sarah, so do you think this exam issue is very sticky? Are we suddenly going to become better educated because we're not doing national exams? Or how do you see this panning out?
That one we're yet to see, but first of all, let's agree that, as she has noted, 844 was there for 30 years or so, but it was highly cannibalized. The 844 that they were doing up to the exam of last year is not the 844 that was actually implemented. All the woodwork, the electricity, the agriculture, they were all done away with. Now we are bringing back everything that is practical and what we think is real to life and all these things. And as Betty has said, the removal of the exam bit, I think, is the one that's excited everyone else. But I have a problem with that. So we keep testing these kids, they say, as they move along. What is the recourse? What about the kids who are found at that particular stage that they cannot make the mark? Let's say you're in class 4 and you cannot read, you cannot add, you cannot subtract, you cannot, what happens? Do we push them back? Do we give them special courses? So all these things, it's very good. 844 was broken. It needed to be fixed. Thank God it's getting fixed. But the how, as she said, the implementation is going to be the issue.
Sometimes you have to roll out something to see exactly to realize the teething problems. And for me, another question would be then, where is the place of private schools in all this? Because for a time, and I know we have to move on, because we would take our kids to private schools because they excelled in this school in the exams and whatnot. But now that we don't have these elimination exams, then what happens to that?
Fortunately or unfortunately, I think private schools are in a better position, even with this new system. I think it's easier for private educators to move on, to roll on new systems, to retrain their teachers because they have the resources. Public schools are in trouble.
All right. Okay, we have to move on now to our next story. And 15 days into the mass voter registration campaign and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has released preliminary data showing that just over 1.5 million Kenyans have applied to be registered as voters. This figure represents just 25% of IEBC's upper target of 6 million voters and 38.5% of the lower 4 million voter target. The Commission admits that much more work needs to be done if these targets are to be met. Meanwhile, politicians continue to traverse the country, calling on Kenyans to register.
We are concerned that some counties with the highest potential voting population of 100,000 and more are below 20% of their total target. These counties include Vihiga, Nyeri, Kisii, Kericho, Kakamega, Bungoma, Siaya, and Kitui.
All right, so IBC is falling way below its targets. As of now, it's about 14 days now to, the final. Like, this is the last round of really, registering to vote. What do you think? Why is the reason that people are not registering? Why do you think, Sarah?
I think one of the national newspapers captured it very well in the banner headline that now Raila and Uhuru are fighting the same enemy. What is the enemy? Voter apathy. And this voter apathy is arising out of lack of trust in the system, the bad governance that we've been talking about for the past 3 years. People just voters have realized whether I vote or not, there's a particular clique of people, they will get what they want. Certain people will get nominated and get elected whether I vote or not. So some of it has come down to the society that we live in and our politics right now.
So what is the IBC to do? I mean, at the end of the day, it's your choice whether you want to register or not. What are your sentiments on this, Betty?
You know, when you reach a point where people are being threatened in terms of you will not be dated, yeah? Because I saw that in the newspapers that, ladies don't date people who have not been, who have not registered.
And women don't have sex with your husbands.
Yeah, women don't have sex with your husbands. It's quite a dire situation. And I'll emphasize again, even though you feel that at the very highest echelons, the politicians are not looking out for your interests, the only way that you can take charge of this process is by participating. You cannot make a difference for yourselves if you opt out, and refusing to register is opting out. Okay, and I agree with Sarah and I agree with the newspapers when they say, you know, we have all these problems. We have droughts, we have doctors' strike, we have lecturers' strike, we have an impending nurses' strike, and no one's dealing with this. We're hurting as Kenyans. These politicians are not going to fix this. I don't feel like I want to participate. You can't fix the problem by opting out. You have to take part. And even if you didn't want to participate at the national level, presidential elections, that MCA in your village is going to change things for you.
Right.
And that is where you take charge again of the situation. Having said that, IEBC, I don't know who can we help you is, you know, because, you know, to be honest, denying conjugal rights is not really going to work. I don't know how we can help the IEBC in this process.
You feel they need to do more to drum up people
I think they can do just, you know, much because
I mean, what more can they do to call?
Exactly. And for me, you know, the fact that for the first time, and I think all of us will agree that for the first time, politicians are actually putting in their resources, you know, to lure voters to register. You know, that automatically sends a very strong message that we are living in a country where, you know, the citizens, the populace are saying, you know what, we have enough problems. I can't get to the voter registration center because I have to get food for my children. That is a reality that we must live with. It's a reality, but at the end of the day, we need to make the decisions. You cannot make a decision, like Betty said, if you have not registered, if you have not confirmed, for instance, that your name is even in the register and is correctly, you know, captured. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Well, speaking of elections, the Jubilee Party and the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy are headed for another clash over the role of the electoral body in the Jubilee Party's primaries. JP has indicated that it will invite the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to conduct its party nominations, but the opposition says that this is unworkable. CORD argues that there is no legal framework to address how IEBC will conduct internal party primaries and is raising questions about who will fund the exercise. Right, so IEBC seems to run into a lot of problems, left, right, and center. Now, CORD contesting Jubilee's intention to have IEBC conduct its primaries. Well, the Constitution does allow for the IEBC to conduct other elections pursuant to an Act of Parliament, and the recent election laws were amended actually to allow that to happen. But my question is this, and I think, Betty, we talked about this also: who's going to pay for IEBC to run Jubilee's primaries? Because if it's coming out of the taxpayers' pocket, that might be something that the whole country should not be down for.
Because it's a party matter.
It's a party matter, and it's unprecedented. I don't think this has ever happened before.
And so even the previous law, if you look at the previous law before it was amended, it was very clear that the Electoral Commission, whichever, it could be IEBC or the Electoral Commission of Kenya then, is actually allowed to conduct party primaries for political parties, and whichever political party that requests for them to conduct the party primaries. It was very clear then that parties are supposed to fund. Political parties should fund their own party primaries because it is not you're not going to tax the taxpayer to pay for this because already this is you could have internal structures already to conduct those party primaries. But since you don't have the structures, can you ask your party members to contribute money for you to pay? And it's not small money. We're talking about 5 billion. IEBC needs to, map the polling centers, probably employ people to work on, on the primaries. Already, the commission has a deadline to bid for the elections. So I don't know if they will manage, but Chiloba has maintained that, as it is, the law is not clear on how funding
Yes, that has been my concern also, because I was wondering, so I remember some columnists wrote about a week or 2 weeks ago that the IEBC and the previous election commissions or bodies had been given such tight deadlines, including this one right now. got very short time. Register, clean up the roll, do all this, do this. As she says, map out the polling stations. What time do they have? And who are these people who are going to do all this? Because right now, guys are complaining the voters' roll is not as clean as it should be. There are very many anomalies. Now, if we start again, whether they're getting paid or not to do the party primaries, what time do they have to clean up the voters' roll? And who's going to do all that? Where's the resource coming from? Yep.
And of course, I think also some fears that have come from some quarters is that would they holding these primaries for the Jubilee Party also, foster some close relations that would, cast doubt on, the general election?
Well, even there's the question of the outcomes, For Jubilee Party, if your nominations are held or they're conducted by IEBC, will your aspirants accept? Are they going to go and sue? Is that what's going to happen? And then hold up the IEBC in court and etc. Right. So there are those questions that need to be answered. Are your aspirants going to accept? If you can't manage your own internal affairs, then and you bring in IEBC, are you going to now drag the IEBC through a court process because you have petitions against the way the process was conducted?
All right. We have to take a break now. But before we do that, let me just remind our viewers of our Twitter poll tonight. And we are asking you, do you think Amina Mohammed deserved to be the AU Commission's next chairperson? Do you believe that Amina Mohammed deserved to be the AU Commission's chairperson? Do tweet us your thoughts at Julie Masiga, at Sharon_Momanyi, and at KTN News using the hashtag news sources. We shall be sampling your views as we continue with this show. Right now, we take a short break. Don't go too far.